Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, we begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Indeed, all praises belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon our noble messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Azhar Zaidi, and I will be your host for this webinar, which is all about tentative itinerary for your Hajj programs. Thank you very much for taking the time this Sunday afternoon to attend this webinar. We hope that you will find it useful and helpful for you to actually prepare for this journey, inshallah. Now, to make sure we are attending the correct webinar, I want you to understand this webinar. We had several webinars. Let's go back here. So we had decided to actually divide up the webinars so we can become specific. You have programs that are Medina first 10 days or Medina first 14 days, Makkah first 10 days or Makkah first 14 days. You had programs that was either in Camp A, Majal al-Kabsh, or in Camp C, Almuaisim. So what we did to be specific to the packages that are in these programs, so we decided to actually break it down and have webinar for each one of them. And so today, we're going to have the webinar today right now on Almuaisim Medina First 10-day packages. So it's a Medina First package, 10 days in duration, but the stay in Mina will be Almuaisim camp. So make sure that you're attending the correct webinar. And that is because if you attend a webinar, this webinar, but you're actually part of another package, what's going to happen is you might confuse yourself. You're most welcome to attend, but it is intended to be for people who are in Al Burj DS Executive B1 and Mawasim Elite DST 0020. So if you are in these packages, you're in the correct webinar. If you're not in these packages, you may attend this webinar, but just don't get confused because the itinerary and everything else is pertaining to this webinar, to these packages. I wanted to begin with, again, mentioning the responsibility for delivering Hajj services. The responsibility assigned by the Ministry of Hajj is given to the Hajj service provider companies in Saudi Arabia, that they own providing services to the pilgrims extensively. And that means airline services, accommodations in the kingdom, Mecca, Medina, or elsewhere, all transportation, services in the camps during the manasik of Hajj, and much more. So ownership and responsibility resides with the Hajj service provider companies. What Dar Islam has done is partnered with 3 companies. More or less, we can only do so in a supporting role. So we've partnered with Al Burj and Sira Mawasim, and we are in a supporting role to provide these services. And our objective is the same as theirs, is to make sure the services are delivered in the best possible manner to the pilgrims for completing their Hajj. That is the reason for you to distinguish between when people think, what would Dar es Salaam provide? Well, would Dar es Salaam provide this? Would Dar es Salaam provide the hotels? It's not in our hands to provide the hotels. We work with them. The actual ownership resides with them, and working very closely, very cooperatively, and collaboratively with them. Now, Hajj has many variables. There are many things that could go wrong or could change. I shouldn't say the word go wrong. Could change. And so we've got this disclaimer that says, should there be changes in the itinerary, timing of the buses, changing from bus to train or vice versa, any of that can happen. And so understand that this is more or less for educational purposes, and the information that we're providing could change without notice. We're working literally hours a day with them to firm up specifics as time goes on. What I've done is I have turned off the ability for you to actually post questions. And that is because I believe that more than 80% of your questions will be answered during the course of my presentation. I will give you plenty of opportunity in the end to actually post your questions and also ask you to look at the existing questions and upvote the questions. The ones with the most vote, I will attempt and I'll answer in that sequence, ones with the most votes. Please keep your questions to the Hajj itinerary that I will be presenting and logistics topics. As far as the fiqh of Hajj and the manasik of Hajj, please reserve your questions on them to the religious sessions that you'll be held with the scholars to go over the fiqh and manasik. Okay, we'll begin with, before I start with the itinerary, I'll begin with some of the things that have already been asked of us now. It has been frequently asked of us, and so we thought, let us address that. Number one is group flight tickets. We had mentioned previously that we will start printing those tickets. They'll be made available starting May the 7th. That has already started. The process is not that it'll all be done on May the 7th. It started on May the 7th, and it is being emailed out. So if you know someone who has received it and you have not received it, don't worry about it. Our objective is that by the end of next week, everyone who had booked their Hajj through the service providers group flights, they should have received their ticket, or they will receive their ticket. I should also tell you, it is important that you continue to check your spam folder on a regular basis, several times a day, because sometimes the email sent ends up being in spam, and you might think you didn't receive anything. So please do, and you'll also see your ticket status posted on Nusuk. So please do check the spam folder daily. Our objective is to complete the group flight tickets by the end of next week, inshallah. For those who are in Abdul Latif Jameel group and airline date issues, it doesn't apply to you because the two packages that I'm discussing today, it does not include any package from Abdul Latif Jameel group. We also had questions about, I'm arriving in for example, Makkah and Jeddah, but my program starts in Medina, or vice versa. Or if I'm arriving in Jeddah and my program starts in Medina, but I'm departing from Medina, though my program ends in Mecca. So the answer is very simple. If it is a group flight that you booked through Nusuk, it's not a customized flight that you book yourself. If it's a group flight, then you'll be provided with a transfer between the cities where you land and where the program begins, or where you end and where the program ends, and where you actually depart for the return trip. It will be provided free either by high-speed train or bus transfer. However, if it's a custom flight that you book, we're working to gather all of the information that you have for custom flight. So if I have a few pilgrims who have a custom flight that arrives around a similar time or same time or the same flight, then the group service provider will provide options as how do you transfer. If it's a custom flight, not booked through Nusuk at all, then you are responsible for transferring from the port of arrival to the city where the program begins, or vice versa. And so we will look at and provide you what options will be available for you. Or alternatively, you may say, I want to book my own, and you can do so if it's a custom flight. People have asked about guides. Who's my guide? Are you going to tell me who my roommate is, and other updates associated with that? So we're still finalizing it. The group leaders have not all been assigned, even though this has been a work in progress quite a bit intensively for the last week and a half. And we intend to actually finalize these. The rooming is also being done. People are being assigned to the rooms, and we intend to finalize that with the group service providers by the end of this week. And we hope that we'll be able to share with you comprehensively by May 20th. So stay tuned. You will have all the information, including WhatsApp groups specific to your groups, and you should join your WhatsApp group. When you see the invitation for Almuaisim Elite 0020, or you see for Executive B1, then please don't wait, don't hesitate, just join the WhatsApp group, because WhatsApp will be our main means of communication, not only here, but more importantly, over there. Visa concerns, some of you have received the visas, some have not. That is true. Not all of the visas have come through. It is not something that Dar es Salaam, or even the service provider controls. It is issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Sometimes the visa comes to you and the status in Nusuk is not updated, and so forth. So you look at the status in Nusuk, but please check your spam folder regularly because it is emailed to you, and sometimes the email ends up being in spam. So make sure you check the spam regularly in case the visa shows up there. But by May 15th, we will send out a survey, inshallah, to find out who has not received the visa. So before answering the survey, make sure you're checking your spam and ensuring that there's no visas there, or the status says the visa has not been issued. Then we will take that result of that survey and ask our service provider to work with Ministry of Hajj and Ministry of Foreign Affairs to expedite this visa issuance. I had the same process last year and it worked out. Everybody ended up getting the visa. But I should point out that if you hold the citizenship of a country like United States or Canada or UK, and you're traveling from that country, then those visas were the first to be issued. If you are living in a country as a resident with a permanent resident card or a green card, then those visas are looked at towards the end of the process. So I wouldn't be surprised if those with PR cards or green cards have not yet received the visa, but it will all come through, inshallah. We'll find out. May 15th is not too far away. It's only three days away, inshallah. We had also questions about wheelchair, and I want to answer them now before I begin the itinerary. There are those who are dependent on a wheelchair and they have their own wheelchair and they want to bring it. Yes, you should bring it. If you have your own wheelchair and you want to bring your own wheelchair or a wheelchair you're comfortable with, you by all means do bring it. But it doesn't mean that there'll be somebody available over there to push you. It is assuming that if you're bringing your wheelchair, you also have someone, a family member or someone in the group that will assist you. I don't think you ought to rely on Dar Islam or the service provider to provide the labor associated with it, whether in Mecca, Medina, and more specifically and more especially during the manasik of Hajj. So by all means, please bring it, but make sure that you have someone to push the wheelchair or assist you with it. Now, anybody who's bringing in the wheelchair should always bring a bicycle lock. A bicycle lock is important because the wheelchair cannot fit inside the camp. In the rooms in Mecca and Medina, you can keep the wheelchair inside. And when you leave it outside, somebody will take it, not necessarily because they're stealing it, it's because they believe it's available and they can use it and they might return it. So it's best for you to have a small bicycle lock that has a little chain around it. So when you're in the camp in Mina, you lock it so that the wheelchair remains yours. And if you find a metal post, it's even better to lock it with the metal post. The second option is also about those who need a wheelchair, but they don't have one. It's best for you to purchase it when you arrive in Medina. Wheelchairs are generally and readily available in pharmacies. They'll cost you probably $100 US, probably even less than that for buying a wheelchair. Again, the assumption is you're purchasing a wheelchair and you have a family member to assist you with the pushing you on the wheelchair. And again, please make sure you have a bicycle lock for use during the Mashayar in Mina and in Arafat to lock your wheelchair when you're inside the camp. There are those who also requested wheelchair through Nusuk. That was an option given when you were purchasing the package. And if so, they will be provided to you by the service provider in each city. But if you don't, you have to use it and you probably have to return it. And the assumption remains the same. Though you chose that option while purchasing the package, that option did not come with someone assisting you. You still have to have a family member or someone to assist you. They will just simply give you the wheelchair as a loan, which is to be returned back, and you may want to use that option if you wish to do so, or you may choose your own, buy your own, if it's up to you. The last one is for those who are basically saying, look, I need a wheelchair and I also need assistance. I'm solo. I have no one to assist me. So in that case, we don't know what the service provider will provide. We're working with them. They have the information of a handful of people that fall into this category. But our recommendation would be, and we have done this before, by the way, we've done this before just a few years ago. Our recommendation is that you ought to go out and rent an electric wheelchair. You're solo, you can drive the electric wheelchair. It comes with rechargeable battery. And so this will allow you to be free and not have to require a physical person. Because if you think about the physical person that's needed, that's pretty well a full-time job. And it's not only that, especially during the Mashayar. When you're in Mina and Arafat, that person is going to have to stay with you basically that person is performing Hajj, is staying in the tent with you, is riding the train with you, is going to have meals with you. So that requires capacity in the camp. And that is something that the service providers are looking at to see what can, if anything, can be done. So while we're doing it, while they're looking for it, I would suggest to you, and we're recommending to you, that you may want to consider just renting a wheelchair. You have two options. You can get it from the entire duration since you arrive in Medina until the end of the manasik, until the end of the manasik, which is the 4th of Zulhijjah till the 13th of Zulhijjah, and return it. That's $315 US. Or you can say, look, I don't need it until the manasik from Mina and Arafat and Muzdalifah, in which case it's $225, the 7th of Zulhijjah to the 13th of Zulhijjah. So you may consider that. It has a deadline as to when these requests needs to be sent. The company that we're working with basically wants to know, you better reserve it now. If you don't, there's no guarantee that by the time you land, that there'll be any available to rent. So it's important that you understand that there is a deadline. You have to consider which way to go and then make a decision. So what about accessibility for those in wheelchair? Generally, it is good. In the cities in Mecca and Medina, it's good. In going to the train station is good. Where it becomes a bit rough is that when you come off the train station and you're going in places, then it may become challenging as to how you navigate. Some places you'll find gravel, for example. So while you have motorized wheelchair, it might be okay, but somebody pushing it becomes hard to actually push the wheelchair on gravel. For example, in Muzdalifah, some might be unpaved areas. So there will be some challenges, but generally it's wheelchair friendly. And then there are those who say, look, I don't want to buy a wheelchair. I don't want to rent a wheelchair. I only need it to assist me with tawaf and sa'i. In other words, I needed a wheelchair only in the haram for tawaf and sa'i. The rest I'm okay. I'll walk. I'll be okay. I'll take the train. In that case, your group leader will help you, because when you come from the hotel going towards the haram, there are people with wheelchairs standing there, and they basically negotiate how much will it cost you, and where are you going to drop it after the Umrah is done. And basically they sit on that wheelchair, and that person who owns the wheelchair will take them and perform tawaf and sa'i, and he's paid at the very end of the trip when he's dropping the person at the agreed to designated place. That is required. That can be done over there. You don't have to book anything here. Or you can rent a scooter, and that is on the 3rd floor of the haram. So I can tell you that you can go there. You still have to go to the 3rd floor of the haram, and I cannot guarantee what the queue will be like, because it's going to be a busy period, as to how much you have to wait, because the wheelchairs are all out being used. They're waiting for them to come back in before your turn comes. But you can rent it at reasonable price in the haram on the 3rd floor. We're here to help you and make the decision based on what your needs are, as such. And in any way we can help you, we will help you. But for those who require electric wheelchair, and not wait for the service providers to come back as to what the solution, if there is a solution, for help and assistance for pushing wheelchair into the manasik, then please fill out this form. You have the QR code on your screen. You can take a snapshot with your camera, and they will take you to the form. The company that's renting it out wants this done now, so they can make the reservations and not have to wait till the last minute when there might be nothing left to rent. So you have to make the decision. The handful of those who say, I need wheelchair assistance during the manasik and there's no one with me to help me, you may consider driving your own electric wheelchair during the manasik. Now comes the original webinar, which is to go through the itinerary. And then again, at the end, I will open up the Q&A and give you ample time to ask your questions and upvote it, and we'll go through it. So let's start with departing for Hajj. You actually need 3 pieces of luggage. I mean, you can have, I know somebody will tell me, but brother, I'm allowed 2 pieces of checked baggage by the airline. You're absolutely right. You're allowed 2 pieces. I'm letting you know what is required. If you take 2 pieces of luggage, yes, where we're handling your luggage, we'll take that second piece for you. Right? Otherwise, you are going to handle both pieces. But really, 1 piece that has all your belongings in it, 50 pounds or 23 kilograms for economy class travel. Make sure it's the appropriate size suitcase. You need a roll-on bag to be used during travel, as well as in Mina. This roll-on bag is the same type of a bag that goes in the overhead bin in the aircraft. And it also has size dimension limits and weight limits. Weight limits is generally 15 pounds. It's important that you have that. And you also have a backpack. And I wrote it in red. The backpack is not included. It is not being provided by the service provider. It has not been provided by service by Dar es Salaam. So you need to actually go out and purchase a backpack. As to what type of a backpack, I'm going to cover that when I talk about what to carry with you to Mina, right? Exactly. So you need that backpack. So 3 pieces of luggage. Now, when you do go to the airport, I can tell you today, if I look at any of the flights that are landing on the 4th of Zulhijjah in Medina on the 10th or the 11th, they're all full. Practically, I can't even find a business class seat. They're all full. They're all overbooked. So when you get to the airport, that is the airport for international flight departure, make sure you arrive early. I know you can say I can get there 2 hours before. Yes, you can. But make sure you give them ample time to handle your luggage and ample time to check in. And if you have any issues with your seats, if you're traveling together and you're seated separately, because these are all group tickets, right? This is issued under one group number. They can't tell who's related to whom. You can resolve that with them over the phone before you depart, maybe online if they allow it. If not, it has to be resolved at the airport. And that means you have to be at the airport at least 4 hours before you travel. The check-in counter opens 4.5 hours before. So show up at the check-in counter 4 hours before. You're early enough, and you can then see the supervisor and see if they can help you with the seats and make sure your luggage is all properly checked in. The flights are full. Number 2, if you are taking the international flight and prior to that you're taking a domestic flight to get to the city from where you're taking the international flight, it's important to understand how your luggage is handled. An example that I use all the time is that let's say you're going from Columbus, Ohio to JFK on Delta Airlines, and then connecting from JFK is your international flight on Turkish Airlines to Medina via Istanbul. In that example, when you go to the check-in counter in Columbus, Ohio, your domestic carrier, Delta, if you ask them, hey, can you send the luggage all the way through to Medina? And let's say if they agree to it, you're taking a chance. You're taking a risk that the luggage at JFK will be transferred between Delta and Turkish. And that is a risk because we've seen instances where the pilgrim shows up in Medina and the luggage is not there, and we filed the lost luggage report, but the airline saying, hey, I never got it. It never came to us. It never was boarded in JFK because somewhere between the two airlines, there was miscommunication and the luggage got left behind. So they don't own the problem because it was never given to them. So what I suggest you do in this example that I've used that applies to other cities, anytime you're taking a domestic flight, check your luggage in from your home country, home city, domestic city, to the international city from where you're going to depart for Saudi Arabia. In this example, from Columbus, Ohio to JFK is a domestic flight. Checking your luggage only to JFK. Claim your luggage at JFK after you arrive. Then walk over to the international carrier's check-in counter and then check that luggage. Now you have a luggage tag from the international carrier that they have received your luggage. And should that get lost, it's easier for us to work with them because we know they have it. Because the other example where they don't ever receive it, imagine going through Hajj without your luggage. And all you're trying to do is save a few bucks by having the domestic carrier send it directly through. So don't try to save a few bucks. Make sure you check your luggage in with the international carrier yourself and get their tag. And then should it get lost, God forbid, at least it is with them and we can work with them to trace it. When you arrive in Medina, you have to go through immigration and customs. There might be a health check, by the way. As soon as you come off the plane, they might just ask you where you're coming from. Show me your vaccination against meningitis. And therefore, we ask you to carry the proof with you. And they might ask you for that. And so you basically go through immigration, which is passport control. You present your passport. They pull up your visa. They stamp your passport. They might take a picture. They might have you do your fingerprints. That's their procedure. Don't hesitate. Just follow the procedure. And once you're done through passport control, you go down the escalator and you'll go to the appropriate carousel to pick up your luggage. There are luggage carts available at no charge. There are also porters over there. Now, make sure that when you do give your passport at passport control, and you happen to be one of those that has a green card or PR card, that you don't give them the green card or the PR card. They don't need it. It is only for you to keep it safe, for you to be able to prove that you're a resident of the country for your return trip. When you're coming back, they want to know, are you a resident of the country you're going to? And if you happen to be a resident with a PR card or a green card, that's when that card is shown. Some people will hand the card with the passport and the card is left behind. You know how much of a pain that is? So just keep your PR card with you safe. The only time you'll have to produce it is when you're coming back at the check-in counter. If somebody asks you for a PR card, even though they shouldn't, they didn't need to know you're a resident of that country. They just need to know that you have a visa. That's what they're looking for in passport control. So keep your PR card safe with you all the time. Now, when you go into the luggage area, and make sure you don't just look at the suitcase. Oh yeah, that's my suitcase, it's the right color. You know how many times people have picked up the wrong suitcase? Again, just a little bit of common sense. When you pick up a bag, look at the tag. Is that your tag? Is that your bag? Then you pick it up. Okay, now if you don't find the luggage in the carousel, if it is somehow didn't make it, then you do not come out of that secure area until you file a lost luggage report with baggage services. The service providers of Dar es Salaam cannot walk into the area. It's a secure area. We're not allowed to come in to assist you. So you are responsible for your luggage at least through customs, claiming it and coming out through customs and exiting it out of the secure area. At least you're responsible for that. And therefore, don't come out if you have lost the luggage until you filed a lost luggage report. Once you come out, then the service provider working with us will direct you to the appropriate bus. Depending on your destination hotel, you'll be sent to that bus, and then you'll basically take your carry-on luggage. Even the small carry-on will go in the bus. The only thing is that your purse or anything valuable you will keep with you in the bus. Now, it's important for me to also mention to you about the hotel room and check-in, because this is something I'm doing to set your expectations, and I don't want you to get upset or ruin your Hajj, because it happens quite often. If you walk into a hotel room, if you're from the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, how many beds are you going to find in the room? 2. That's standard. So 2 standard beds, 2 twin beds, 2 double beds, 2 queen beds. That's the number of beds, 2 beds. If you ask the hotel management, can you bring in 2 other beds because I have 2 other persons with me? They will bring it in. They'll probably charge you for it, but they will bring it in. And those will be temporary beds. So brothers and sisters, when you chose triple or quad occupancy, and for those in triple and quad occupancy, you should know that besides the 2 standard beds, the additional beds are going to be rollover beds or cots. I'm not saying it may not be comfortable to sleep in, but it will not be the same as the standard bed. And what tends to happen is that shaitan starts to gnaw at you, and you say, wait a minute, I paid the same amount as the other person. How come I get a temporary bed and the other person doesn't? That's because when we do the rooming, we do it on the basis of which people are assigned to the room. We'll have 4 people assigned to this quad room. We don't decide who gets which bed inside the room. That is up to the occupants of the room. So 2 beds and 2 temporary beds for a quad occupancy, 2 beds and 1 temporary bed for a triple occupancy. That is the standard, and I want you to understand that. So when you walk in there, happens to be in a quad occupancy, look at the people around you. If you find somebody who's not going to be comfortable in a temporary bed, be the first to offer them the regular bed. Because part of Hajj is to help others. The reason Hajj is all together at the same time worldwide, because you get everybody together for worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the greatest demonstrations of brotherhood and sisterhood, but also the great opportunity to help. In the ayah of the Hajj that I have recited in the previous webinars on the logistics of Hajj, where Allah says the months of Hajj are well known, He does mention, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ. It is in the ayah of the Hajj, whatever good you do, Allah is aware. So again, be considerate of others. It is not your Hajj. It is not my Hajj. It is collectively our Hajj. It may be that if you're helping somebody, that is sufficient for Allah to accept your Hajj. That is why we're together. If it was supposed to be an individual person's Hajj, then we left to the individual person to go and perform Hajj at any time they want. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it a one season for everyone to be together. There is a reason for that. And that part of that reason is that you show consideration for others. And part of the reason is that you're not going to get into arguments or fight and so forth, because that is also mentioned in the ayat pertaining to the Hajj. So I'm asking you that you understand, if you're in quad or triple, this is what the rooming configuration will be. The pricing was based on this configuration. And so be considerate when you go in there and decide among the occupants who gets what. The second part that people sometimes get upset, and that is, when I arrive there, I need to have my room. Well, it all depends, because the hotel's check-in time has no bearing on the flight's arrival time. Very simple. If you arrived in a city where you live at 9 o'clock in the morning, you walk into a hotel and say, can I have my room? Generally, if the room is available, they'll give it to you. But if the room is not available, they will point to you that the check-in time is 3 p.m. Right? Especially if it's high season and the rooms are booked. Because most and almost all the hotels have a check-in time in the afternoon, because the checkout time is 12 noon. So they allow the people to check out, the room is clean and then made available. It's no different in Mecca and Medina. So their check-in time is 5 p.m. onwards. Some people look at 5 p.m. and they say, okay, already it's 5 p.m. Where's my room? No, 5 p.m. onwards. If you happen to be in Anwar al-Madinah, Movenpick, or whichever hotel you're in, go look at their website as to what the check-in time is, and you will find out that it is 5 p.m., 4 p.m., or 5 p.m. So if you happen to have a flight coming in on June the 10th at 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning, then guess what? You may have to wait for your room. And you might say, but brother, I traveled 24 hours. Again, that has no bearing as to when the room is available, because every single room is going to be booked for Hajj. And those who are in your room will not leave till after Zohar prayers, which is around 12:30, 1 o'clock to come back. And some of them will actually come back after Zohar prayers, take a shower, change, because they're going to Mecca, like you will in a few days, and they will put on their ihram. So they're not leaving the room till about 2 or 2:30, and then the room's cleaned and checked out. What we do is we find a place for you to leave your belongings and use the washrooms, and then go to the haram and pray and enjoy your time over in the haram. Some people will go and take a short nap between Zohar and Asr in the haram, which is fine. You can also make wudu in the courtyard of the haram. There are places to make wudu in there. So, but you'll still be waiting for your room, and we'll try to do our best to speed up. We work with the hotel staff. Once they assign the room, we'll go chase the people, housekeeping, and who have probably 100 rooms to clean. We'll have them, hey, can you give priority to these rooms? We'll do the best we can to make it available for you. Your luggage will be kept safely, and you'll still have to probably wait until you get there. Now, those are those who are arriving on the 10th early in the morning. There are those who are arriving on the 11th early in the morning. They will have no wait time. Reason being that the occupancy begins on the 10th. If you arrive early before the time for occupancy, you'll have to wait. If you arrive on the 11th, the room should already be there for you. It should not be an issue for you. So the occupancy begins on the 10th. As far as the hotels is concerned in Medina, it's Anwar al-Madinah Movenpick. Both programs that I'm talking about today, they're staying in Anwar al-Madinah Movenpick Hotel. And the Movenpick Hotel is one of the closest hotel there is to the Haram in the northwest corner. If you look carefully, this white area is the courtyard of Masjid al-Nabawi, and the entrance to the courtyard is through gates, and each gate has a number. Okay? And so your gate number entered the courtyard, written in huge letters, is 328. Literally, you're about steps away, less than 20 steps away from entering the courtyard. So become familiar with it, so that once you're inside the masjid, you know that you have to exit from 328 to get to your hotel. Follow the instructions for ziyarah in Medina, because there will be ziyarah in Medina. Please follow the instructions. It's important that you follow the instructions. And we'll give you a specific time and place to gather for ziyarah, to board the bus to go for ziyarah. There will be lectures, but the most important lecture will be to go over the fiqh of Umrah and Hajj, because you haven't performed Umrah yet. So there will be a lecture on that, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions of the scholars who give you the lectures, per se. And basically, all the administration and guidance will be provided to you by your group leader. And again, lifeline will be WhatsApp. When we establish the group WhatsApp and you receive invitation for group WhatsApp, again, make it a habit of checking your spam folder on a daily basis. And you'll find the invitation there, join it. Don't hesitate, join it. You might say, but brother, I'm going to use my SIM from Saudi Arabia. Should I join it using my existing phone? Yes, please. The communication is starting here now. You can use your existing phone number to join, and once you get the SIM, you can swap it if you want to, but most people leave it the way it is. So join, and make sure when you join, your profile in WhatsApp does not only show your number, and we don't know who you are, but make sure you change your profile to put your number and your name so we can associate who the person is. When you're interacting with your group leader, he will know or she will know who they're interacting with. So again, group WhatsApp is the main means of communication within the group, and with the group leader, your group leader will be on that WhatsApp. So follow the admin and guidance when it comes there. Now comes departing. Departing from Mecca will be on the 7th of Dhul Hijjah or 13th of June. Now, let's talk about your luggage. We will probably give you instructions to pack up your suitcase, and I'll put it outside your room at specific time. It'll be picked up and transferred. You don't take the suitcase on the high-speed train. The suitcase is transferred by road. And it's important that you put your luggage out, this is check luggage, out of the room on time. Don't delay it, because they will go through once, and all the suitcase they find outside the room, they bring it down, they load it on the truck, and off they go. So make sure that you follow the instructions and prepare your luggage accordingly. And what you need to keep with you in your hand carry luggage will be your ihram, because you don't have, you're going to go into the state of ihram from Medina on the way to Mecca. You will need your medicine, valuables. Make sure that does not go in the suitcase. Don't be in a situation where you say after a while, brother, I forgot my valuables in my suitcase or my medicine. Just be cognizant of the fact that when you're going to put your suitcase out for transfer, even though you will get it a few hours later in Mecca, make sure that things that you need to be with you is with you, medicine especially and valuables especially as such, in your hand carry. Inshallah, we will travel by high-speed train on the evening the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. Hajj begins on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. You're leaving Medina on the evening of the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. Trust you me, you will really enjoy the 7th of Dhul Hijjah, because almost everybody is gone from Medina. So you'll find the haram to be relatively empty. You really, really enjoy it. And then in the evening, inshallah, you'll take the train based on when they give us the train timing, and you'll arrive in Mecca in ihram. You will assume the state of ihram prior to getting on the train, and all that instruction will come from the religious sessions, and you're just carrying your hand carry. It's really nice. Brothers struggle with putting on ihram, especially those who are going for the first time. So you don't have to worry about your suitcases, just your hand carry luggage. And labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. Here I am, O Allah, here I am, here I am, you have no partner, here I am, truly all praises belongs to you, all blessings are for you, and to you belongs the sovereignty. Here I am. You are responding to the call that Allah has made. It is not Dar es Salaam, it is not the service providers, it is Allah that has invited you. He is your host. You are his guest. There is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he mentions that Allah has 3 guests, and one of them is the ones who come for Hajj. So make sure that you understand and tune your heart to that. You say that talbiyah, mean it, that you're actually speaking to Allah. Here I am, O Allah. Here I am. You have no partner. Indeed, praises belong to you. You have to be in that mode, right? In that case, you don't have to worry about your luggage. You just have to take your hand carry, sit in the train, 2 hours and 15 minutes. You'll be in the state of ihram, and then you arrive in Mecca, in the city, and then you will be transferred to your hotel in Mecca. Hotel in Mecca, depending on the package you're in, is one of those Swiss hotels. In the clock tower building complex, you have a Swiss maqam, a tower on one side, and Swiss hotel tower on the other side. And so the entrance is the same. You'll come in and you will check in. It depends. You will come in, and your luggage might be arriving then or might be arriving a bit later. So what I suggest people do when they pack their suit, the hand carry luggage in Medina, that they also take the change of clothes. And the decision will be made as to when to go to the Haram and perform Umrah. So please perform Umrah. It will be crowded. It's one day before Hajj begins, and you go and perform your Umrah, and then you make sure you pace yourself. You rest. One of the things you will learn, and if you are good at this, and you should be, and that is you probably have to learn how to get rested in short, small naps. If you get a chance to sleep in the train for an hour, yes, you should. I know you're in Ihram. You can be in Ihram and you can sleep in Ihram, you can eat in Ihram, you can go to the bathroom in Ihram. All of that is allowed in Ihram. But do get rested. If you can rest for an hour and get rested, go rest for an hour. Set your alarm for an hour. You'll find and learn that you'll need these naps as opposed to saying, hey, it's only an hour left, let me stay up. Make sure you pace yourself. And again, administration will be provided by the group leader, and WhatsApp will be the main means of communication. Now that you have performed your Umrah, the question is, what do I pack? Right? Your checked luggage you would have claimed already that came from Medina, and now you're packing for Mina. But wait a minute, you don't need the change of clothes, because when you leave for Mina, the morning of the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, when you leave for Mina, you leave in Ihram. And when you're finished with Hajj, when you complete the Hajj on the day of Eid, you're still in Ihram. So you don't need to change your clothes, because you'll probably come back to your hotel, right? Come back for your hotel when you are ready to change your Ihram upon returning from Muzdalifah. So what you need is to use that backpack, which you had in your suitcase. You need a towel to wipe your hands, some toiletries, and if you do take toiletries, make sure they're unscented toiletries. What I use, that I don't use anything fancy. I have Dove unscented soap from Walmart that I cut in half, and I put it in a dollar store plastic soap dish, and I put a rubber band around it. That's it. That's my toiletry. Wash my hands. And you have toothpaste and toothbrush if you want, or miswak if you want. That's it. And so you are going to take that with you. You're going to sleep in Ihram in Mina overnight, and you'll then go to Arafat from Mina accordingly. So prayer mat, Quran, dua book, medicine, all of that fits nicely into your backpack. In the logistics session, I mentioned to have power bank. Your power bank should be completely charged in case you need to use that to recharge your phone and not find an outlet in Mina or in Arafat as such. But since you retain your room, your luggage remains in the room, and your valuables are in the safe in the room. The passport may be returned back to you after customs and immigration in passport control in Medina, in which case you keep that passport with you in your room, in the safe. Take it with you for the manasik. Now, I'm sharing with you the map of Mina. You can see that you're in Camp C, Almuaisim, and the Jamarat. It is at some distance, right? And that is a valley. The whites that you see are the tents in the valley. The mountains are the brown color that you see, and you're at some distance from the camp to the Jamarat. You'll be dropped off in your camp on the morning of the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, and we want you to just simply, all you have to do that day is become comfortable, because you're not used to sleeping with multiple people in the same tent. You're not used to the tent to start with. So become comfortable, get rested. The main day is the day of Arafat, which is the next day. Don't tire yourself. All you do that day is do your prayers, listen to the lectures, get ready, understand from your group leader when to depart for Arafat, etc., and remain hydrated. Okay? Departing from Arafat and from Almuaisim camp will be in air-conditioned buses. But please, brothers and sisters, understand that these are not dedicated buses. There's not going to be one bus for Executive B1 and one bus for Almuaisim Sira DST 20. It's not that bus is yours all the way through. That's not how it works. A shuttle bus means it'll take up some pilgrims, drop them off, on a specific road that is devoid of traffic come back and pick the next group up. So they'll be running a bunch of shuttle buses, but the schedule as to who gets to go first and who gets to go second is developed by the Ministry of Hajj and then given to the service provider. This is your time for your people. And then the service provider will decide based on the draw system that they have, the Ministry of Hajj, when does the group depart? You will say, brother, I need to depart, after Fajr. Maybe they'll ask you to leave before Fajr to go to Arafat. Maybe you'll be staying after Fajr till 10 o'clock in the morning to get to Arafat. You just don't know. The schedule will be decided then, and you just have to wait your turn. And this is throughout the manasik. In the camp in Mina to Arafat, you'll have to wait your turn. In the camp in Arafat, you'll hear from the shuyukhs that yes, you leave Arafat after Maghrib. But let me tell you, some people will leave after Isha because their turn is not right after Maghrib. The turn is to wait another hour, 2 hours, and then get on with the shuttle bus when it shows up. So understand that everybody will perform Hajj as it's supposed to be performed. They will not miss their steps, but it may not be automatically at the same time. So you may have to wait. Your Hajj is still complete. The steps are still complete. Nothing will be wrong, but just be patient and nobody will be missed, right? So basically, the boarding areas, you can see in this picture that I'm sharing with you. On the right side is the street so that people don't run after the bus as used to. I mean, when I went for Hajj in Almuaisim camp years ago, they actually did have a bus come in and people running towards it. So what they do is they put them in a boarding area, and then only those here will actually walk out and board their bus. So you'll be informed when to go to your boarding area. Make sure the families are together. So if you have your wife with you, you have any family members with you, male and female in a separate camp, you tell your group leader that I want to make sure they all come together, and you're together, you travel together. Make sure you look after that. You'll have ample opportunity to gather together before you board the bus. So to be advised by a group leader when to depart, and be in your tents until you're told to go into that waiting area. That's when you go to the waiting area, not before then. Don't go and crowd the area as to my turn will come, let me go now, let me go now. Some people will do that, but be patient, be calm. You're about to go to Arafat, the most significant day of the entire year. The most significant day of the entire year. The most significant day. If you're intending to spend the night in Muzdalifah, don't take the bedding from Mina, because the service provider has said that they will provide the sleeping bag or mat for use in Muzdalifah. So don't take any of the beddings with you. So again, the transfer to Arafat will be based on a draw system by the Ministry of Hajj. We don't know what the time is going to be, but it will be on the day of Arafat. We just don't know in what sequence it's going to be. That will be decided and you will be informed just the evening before. Arafat has large tents. Men and women are in separate tents, and it's going to be hot. Okay, I am giving temperatures in every slide at the bottom. You're probably getting some sense of what I'm saying in the terms of hot. Yes, there will be AC units inside the camp, but I can tell you last year I was there. The AC units had cooled the tents down in the morning when we came in, because they closed the tents and they ran the AC at maximum inside. We walked in the morning, it was nice and cool. But once the tents opened up, people were going in and out and the sun came up. At noon, it was hot. Hot to the point where the sisters who actually have to put their hijab on, they were complaining that it's not working. I had to actually walk into the sisters' tent with their permission and with the technician, and we checked every single AC unit. It was blasting cold air as best as it could, but the temperature was still 36 degrees Celsius. And the reason being because the outside temperature was 48. 120 was outside. So it's going to be hot. And so, yes, we'll have enough sitting area and meals. Your job is to make sure you remain hydrated. Your job is to make sure that what I mentioned in the last logistics seminar, that you take some hydration salts. Well, this is where you use them. Those electrolyte salt that you have, use them in Mina, use them definitely in Arafat, you definitely use them in Muzdalifah. I drank 3 500 ml bottles of water in an hour and a half with all of them with the electrolyte salts when I was in the camp last year. It was that hot. What people do, they say, well, you know what, if I drink, then I have to go to the bathroom. I might not drink. Well, guess what? You're going to actually collapse from heat exhaustion by the end of the day. You're not doing yourself any favor. You can't concentrate in that state of mind in depriving your body of the necessary fluid and electrolytes. So make sure you drink. Make sure you drink, and every time you drink, you put some hydration, electrolyte powder that you take with you from here. This is where you use them as such. Now, it's important that you eat light. Yes, the meal will be provided, but try to keep light. But make sure you keep up with the hydration for drinking. And this is the day where you're going. Reason for your entire trip is to stand in Arafat. Stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Arafat. When you get there in the morning, let's say if you get there in the morning and Zohar is still 3 hours away, 4 hours away, I would see if I can take a nap. That's what I do. I would go and take a nap for an hour. And then I will beat the rush to the bathroom. If Zohar prayer starts at 12:15, I'm already in the state of wudu by 11:15, and I'm now waiting for the Zohar prayers. I can be reciting the talbiyah, or I can be reciting what the Prophet ﷺ said, that I and the Prophet before me made the best dua on the day of Arafat, which is La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. What a beautiful way of exercising your affirmation of faith. There is no one worthy of worship but Allah. He is one and has no partner. Lahul mulk, to him belongs the sovereignty. Wa lahul hamd, to him belongs all praises. Wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, and he has the power over everything. Imagine saying it from your heart. There is none worthy of worship but you, O Allah. To you belongs the sovereignty. You own everything. You own me. You own the heavens and the earth and all that is in it. And you own all praises. You alone are worthy of praises. And you have power over everything. And it's part and parcel of being there to make sure that your faith is affirmed. You're rising in your status before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join the Dhuhr and Asr prayers in congregation. It will be held in every camp, men and women. We'll send some scholars to make sure that they are leading them in prayers. There'll be a khutbah of Arafat, and after that is the time for wuquf. Wuquf means to stand before Allah. There'll be time for lunch as well, right? And this is where you can make individual supplications. If it's too hot outside to stand, you can stand inside the tent. It's okay. Don't leave the gated area. Some people will say, let me go outside, let me go see Masjid Nimra, let me go see Jabal Rahma. There's no need for you to exhaust yourself or get lost. All of that has happened in the past. All of Arafah is a place of standing. The Prophet ﷺ saying, anywhere, all of Arafah is a place of standing. So take advantage of that, because your day is not over yet. It's going to get, if you're going to exhaust in the beginning of the day, then you'll be pretty dead tired, by the end of the day. It's very important to understand how the day progresses. You have to look forward to understand how you have to behave in the past. So basically, you're going to have congregational prayers, and then later on, individual prayer, salah, individual dua, and then later on, after Asr time, when it gets relatively cooler, you might see the shuyukhs outside the camp leading in group supplications, and you can join them as well, or you can have your individual supplications. Stay hydrated, brothers and sisters. Carry 2 or 3 bottles of water with you in your backpack. Get ready for the return. And if you wait till the last minute to look for 2 or 3 bottles of water, then you might not find any. So just grab 2 or 3. Don't worry about the fact that it's going to be warm by the time you drink it. You need to drink it. It doesn't have to be cold. You need to drink it to make sure that you remain hydrated. This is the most important day. The Prophet ﷺ said, there is no day in the entire year. Let me repeat, there is no day in the entire year when most are freed from the fire of hell than the day of Arafat. There is no day in the entire year when most are freed from the fire of hell than the day of Arafat. And you are going to be there. You're going to be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He has basically equalized everyone. When men wear the white shroud, it does not distinguish the rich from the poor, from the well-connected to the unknown. It doesn't connect any which way possible. Everybody is equal except for the one who is most conscious with Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except with taqwa. The one who's nearest to me is the one who's most conscious of me. So this is an inner journey. It is an inner journey. And brothers and sisters, you are rehearsing the day of judgment when the sun will be just above your head. So if you feel the heat, that's because it's a rehearsal of that day, which is going to be hot and there'll be no shade. That's what you're rehearsing. And look what you're trying to gain by doing that. The two hadiths that mentions Hajj, one of them says, Hajj Mabrur, Hajj that is accepted by Allah, the reward is no less than Jannah. Imagine being the person whose name has been inscribed as the inhabitant of Jannah. That's one thing you're there to gain. Or the one who performs Hajj without getting into lewdness or sin or arguments returns home as the day his mother gave birth to him. Imagine volumes and volumes of sins that you have been written for you, that you have committed. All of that goes blank. You start again. It's gone. What are you prepared to do for that? For that opportunity, that mercy from Allah that descends on that day. That's why there's called a Mount of Mercy there. All those were forgiven. So be prepared for that. Be conscious of that. Don't fall asleep in the afternoon. Pace yourself. Pace yourself and be conscious of the du'as that you're making to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're pleading your case now as a rehearsal, because in the actual day of judgment, there is no seeking forgiveness. It's too late for that. That day, for the few hours, you're seeking forgiveness. It is said that the Prophet ﷺ was making dua so intensely as the sun was going down. His intensity was such that just like a child would be begging of something from their parents. So imagine that. Imagine that, making dua to Allah for what? What is the end goal here? Jannah. What is the end goal? Forgiveness. What is the end goal? Being in the shade on the day when there'll be no shade. And so how do you appear before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that state? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this about the day of judgment when he says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالُ وَلَا بَنُونَ. He said on that day, you will not be able to benefit from your wealth or from your children. Right? So the wealth and children and might and power disappears when you wear the two pieces of white cloth. All are equal. You will not be able to benefit on the day of judgment from the wealth or from the children, إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, except for the one who comes to me with a sound heart. Have you prepared your heart for this journey? Because I can tell you that 99.99% of the questions that I'm getting is all about logistics. Is all about, do I take a suntan lotion? Do I take this? Do I take that? What about this? Have you prepared the heart for this journey? Have you prepared to rehearse the day when you'll stand before your Lord? Have you prepared to go to his house at his guest with a blank check of what you asked for when you're going around his house? How do you have a sound heart? You start here. You start now. You start with seeking forgiveness of those who you have harmed today. Make sure that people that you've harmed, you go to them and seek forgiveness. If you have broken relationship with your siblings and God forbid your parents, mend those relationships. You are removing the rust from your heart. You're removing your malice from the heart. How can you say I can't forgive someone when you yourself are seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can you not have mercy on someone who has wronged you, even though maybe you're right, when you're saying, well, Allah have mercy on me? This is the type of thought process you have to go through. And imagine all the people you have dealt with and who you have to go to make sure that you know that you're going for Hajj. Please forgive me. I want to make amends. We have been speaking. Please forgive me. You are preparing your heart, making it softer so you can appear before your Lord with this sound heart. We can't make it for you. We can give you all the information, but you have to sit down and reflect. And this is where it comes in. It is with that heart you stand and ask for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask for mercy for yourself, for your parents, for your children. Ask for the best way to exit this world, because everyone will. Ask for the shade on the day of judgment. Ask for Jannah. Ask for the record to be given on your right hand. Ask for your flaws to be hidden on the day when they'll be all revealed. Ask for all of those things. You have to feel that when you're asking for it. This is the day of dua in the afternoon. That's the best day of the entire year. You'll be exhausted by that time. It'll be hot. You'll be standing up. You'll be awake. And then we'll say we'll depart to Muzdalifah after Maghrib on shuttle buses within our allotted time. which is why I'm setting the expectation with you now. Let you know there could be considerable wait in Arafat before we depart from Muzdalifah. Brothers and sisters, when I used to go to Almuaisim, I used to take the bus when they didn't have a unique road just for shuttle buses. We actually went with the rest of the traffic, literally departing after Maghrib at 6 something and arriving in Muzdalifah at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, a distance of 7 kilometers in 7 hours. You could walk faster. But they now have actually a dedicated road for bus to shuttle back and forth. You just have to wait for your turn for the shuttle bus to come. You'll all get there. Inshallah, it's not an issue, but just wait. And when you wait, reflect on the day that you've passed. Imagine the day that you're going to actually stand before Allah or even see Him in Jannah, inshallah. Muzdalifah, we have a separate area for the pilgrims. It's carpeted. When you get there, you make your wudu, you pray Maghrib and Isha in congregation. What does it mean? Well, you just arrive with a group of 3 or 4. You just basically gather and join the congregation. Somebody else is praying, you just join them. So basically what you need to do is that you need to actually join whatever congregation there is. And after that, grab something to eat if you're hungry, something light. Sometimes people take, energy bars, granola bars, whatever they take with them. But there will be some meal given, and then just make sure you're hydrated. And you can collect the pebbles for Rami Jamarat. You can collect 70 pebbles to be safe. That's all 4 days of throwing the stones at the Jamarat. And the service provider have said they'll provide a mat or sleeping bag, and you use this to sleep. Now, I'll tell you what normally happens. What normally happens is when you get there, because you're shuttling, the first one will get there, they'll take up a large space. And the second one will get there, they'll take up some more space. By the time the last few bunch goes there, you find that their space are taken up, but the space is wasted. We are not considerate of others. Brothers and sisters on the other side, no, my wife's going to stay with me. I'm afraid I'm going to lose her. I'm not going to let her go on the other side. Well, if a woman is sleeping next to her husband, then for the next 20 feet, nobody wants to sleep next to the woman. You're wasting space. You're not considerate of others. Why do you worry? If the woman has to be Islamically in a separate area, let her be Islamically in a separate area. Make sure all of you, mark this word, all of you have your own smartphone that is fully charged and you have a data plan. And when you are in Mina, before you depart for Arafat, make sure you do a pin drop of your location in Mina. Make sure you do that. Because if you if the bus ends up not going too far and you want to say, and people in the bus want to say, look, let's walk to the camp, you will know how to get back to the camp. Make sure you have a pin drop of your Mina camp location, because you have to get there in case the bus drops you off halfway through and you have to walk the rest. But be considerate of others. What happens, the last group that shows up, 2 are here, 2 are there. So don't worry about it. Everybody will gather in the morning to actually walk. Some people will say in the morning, I'm not waiting for my shuttle bus. I'll walk to my camp. That's their choice if they want to actually do that. And you need to know where the camp is. But for the rest, the shuttle will inshallah come. But just don't leave the area, because it's one of the worst places to get lost. So you stay in the area itself. Don't lose the concentration. What did the Prophet ﷺ did? He actually prayed Maghrib and Isha and he went to sleep. He woke up in the early part of Fajr. He prayed Fajr, and unlike a mad rush that everybody wants to go and throw the stones, he stood there facing the Qibla and made the same wuquf that he made in Arafat until it became bright. He continued to make dua. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran? When you come from the mount to Al-Mash'i al-Haram, which is Muzdalif, then remember Allah. Remember that He guided you, for before that you are among those not guided. This is the time to praise Allah, to thank Him and show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and continue to pray and make dua until you depart from Muzdalifah in the morning to Mina. There will be 2 departures, by the way, Muzdalifah. This is important. The wajib is that you stay till Fajr. You leave after Fajr prayers. However, the Prophet ﷺ allowed the weak, the sick, the old, the women, the children, and those who are serving them, like group leaders. to go with them after completing half the night. So there will be two departures. There'll be some leaving in the middle of the night, maybe after midnight, let's say, or 1 o'clock towards Mina. And you can do that if you're part of that group. If you're part of the women, children, weak, old, elderly, etc. Or you can stay till Fajr. But you cannot do this in between. After half the group have left, somebody says, I changed my mind, I want to go now. Well, there's no one to take you now. Either you leave with the group or you stay till Fajr. So you make sure you stay with the correct group for your choice of stay in Muzdalifah as such. Okay. When you arrive in Mina, now you notice that this slide says days 7 to 9. This is for the remaining days of Hajj. We will definitely use the air-conditioned buses between Mina and Haram for Tawaf al-Ifadah, the end of Hajj. However, I cannot tell you, and this is what Dar Islam does, and this is what I've done for 30 years. I want to tell you what I know. I don't want to create false hopes. I cannot say inshallah without having some meaning behind it. The timing of the transfers from Almuaisim to Makkah, even though you have your hotel room, that you retained your hotel room, you have the hotel, it is up to the Ministry of Hajj's approval and directives. So will there be something given to you on the 10th of Zulhijjah after you arrive from Muzdalifah to go to your hotel and come out of Ihram and change? Probably. They will give you something, but I can't tell you it will be right away in the morning, or it will be later on in the afternoon, because the traffic is all coming into Mina, into the valley to drop people off from Muzdalifah. At what point in time will they allow the traffic to leave and have and be directed towards Makkah? It is something that they decide. So bear with me as far as shuttling service is concerned between the 10th and the 11th for those who have their hotel, and all of you do, as to how that will occur. Our goal would be to send you in the morning and bring you back before Maghrib. Why bring you back? Because it is wajib for you to spend at least half the night in Mina. So you are in Ihram, you have your backpack with you. If the barbers are available in the camp, get your hair cut. If not, go to your hotel, find the barber there, get your hair cut and come out of Ihram, or shaved and come out of Ihram, and rest in your hotel and wait for the direction, which would be that we'll take you back to Mina after Asr. So get on the bus, go back to your camp. Why? Because you must spend at least half the night in Mina. And at past half the night in Mina, you're coming back to your hotel. And that's when you might want to say, look, I'm going to make Tawaf al-Ifadah now. And you do your Tawaf al-Ifadah, stay in your room, you stay for Fajr, you stay for Dhuhr, and you'll be brought back to the camp. Why? Because you still have to throw the stones for the 11, all 3 Jamarat. But this time when you come to the camp, you stay overnight in the camp until the 12th, right? It could even be the 13th. We don't know. It all depends on what the schedule is from the ministry. Now, how do you go to the Jamarat from Almuaisim? Everybody's talked to you about it. They've said, oh yeah, it's far. All of that is true, but that is the reality. It can be crowded at times. The group leader advises you when to go. It's going to be hot. You're going to walk through, and the walking time is about 45 to 50 minutes each way. 45 to 50 minutes each way. Take an umbrella and take some drinks to remain hydrated. You might want to put some hydration salt in your drink to actually remain hydrated. And then you walk. How do we walk? Well, this map shows you Almuaisim camp through the mountains, which has a tunnel into the Jamarat area. That's the 45 to 50 minutes each way. Okay, this is much closer. When you come out, you will see in this picture where the arrows are showing, it is the tunnel coming out. When you come out on the bottom part, you make a left turn and you go through the Jamarat, throw your stones, throw the stones in Jamaratul Kubra, sorry, Sughra, the small one, and you'll make dua. Then you throw the stone in Jamaratul Wusta, which is the middle one, and you make dua. And the last one would be Jamratul Kubra, which is the big shaitan, and then you don't make dua and you make a right turn and you're back to the tunnel system, back to your camp. So it is a lot of walking, but most of them is in the tunnel. So remain hydrated. For those who are unable to walk, for example, you don't have to go yourself. It is okay to actually delegate someone you trust. Here are my pebbles, would you throw it for me? And you can do that. And you can ask those detailed questions on the fiqh aspect of it from your sessions, religious sessions, inshallah. So from Rami Jamarat, the last day, the 13th of Zulhijjah is the last day. You'll perform your Rami Jamarat on the last day. and that will be the end of the manasik of Hajj, and you'll return to your Makkah hotel. I doubt that they will allow you to come back on the 12th. I seriously doubt that they will allow buses to enter the 12th and bring you into your hotel. You might be coming back on the 13th. What if you say, well, the Hajj is over on the 12th, I need to go back to my hotel? Nobody's going to stop you, but you'll be on your own to actually get to your hotel, as opposed to a bus being provided by the service provider. I'm just giving you my experience here, okay? And then once you're in your hotel, depending on when your flight is, you will perform tawaf al-wada based on your return flight. Somebody asked me in the last webinar, when should I make tawaf al-wada? Well, what I tell folks is that 10 hours before your flight departure time, you should have completed your tawaf al-wada. Anywhere between 10 hours to 12 hours, 10 hours before, you should have completed it. And then you'll be transferred to Jeddah Airport for your return flight. Now, once you get to the airport, we will be giving everybody a complimentary Zamzam, 5 liters. The box looks just like that. It is pre-packed, and you write your name, you write a marker on it, and make sure you write it on all sides, and you check it in. And it'll be sent, it'll be accepted by the airline. It is subject to their discretion to accept it. The General Authority on Civil Aviation, Saudi Arabia, has defined rules for the airlines to accept 1 Zamzam per person. Do not put Zamzam in your suitcase, because the suitcase is scanned. If they find liquid, they'll set it aside. Just is a separate piece of luggage, and it's taken at no charge. If you're in a consistent one airline, no charge. If you have mixed airline, they might not even accept it. I've had instances where somebody was coming out of Saudi Airlines and then taking on the trip further on from Turkey on Turkish Airways, and Saudi Airlines says, I'm sorry, we can't accept your Zamzam. But if it's a Saudi Airlines direct flight, they would accept it. If it's an Emirates direct flight or Etihad direct flight or Egypt Air, they will all accept it. But if it's a mixed flight, it all depends on whether they will or they will not accept it. But we will provide it at no charge. Let's say they accept it and you bring it back to the States. And let's say once you arrive in the States or in Canada or in Australia or UK, you now have to take a domestic flight. While that Zamzam may not be free of charge as a luggage in your domestic flight, they might charge you for luggage. In some cases, people have gone to the domestic carrier and said, look, this is holy water, and they have allowed it at no charge. Everybody knows what Zamzam is. All the customs and border controls officers, they all know what Zamzam is. They also know what people bring dried dates. So long as they're packed and you declare, yes, I'm bringing food. What is it? Dried dates. That's allowed. Okay. So you can bring those things in, inshallah. And so, brothers and sisters, what I'm going to do now, this is the end of my presentation part, and I am going to open up the, I'm going to allow you to now put in your questions. Brother Muhammad Fasih, you have to put in your questions. I will not work with raised hands. And once the questions are put in, I would like you to look at the questions and upvote the questions, so that I'll sort it by most voted and answered. So I'll take a pause for about a couple of minutes, and then I'll start answering it. So I'll give you a chance to read the questions that's already posted. If it's the same as what you want to ask, then upvote it, or put your own questions in. And after about a couple of minutes, I will close the questions so that nobody can ask any more questions, and then I'll see what I can do to answer them, inshallah, for you. Okay, just give it a couple of minutes, inshallah. One more minute, brothers and sisters, before I close the Q&A, and then I'll take it up, inshallah. Okay, brothers and sisters, I'm going to close the Q&A. Make sure you upvote the questions that are already there, and then I'll take your questions. I think I've given sufficient time for the questions. Please submit it now. It's going to be closed in 30 seconds. I certainly hope that you're finding this useful in preparing you for the journey. Okay. The questions are closed. So you can't enter any more questions, and let me answer the ones that are there. Let me sort by most upvotes. Most upvotes, where are they? Okay, number one question, custom flights. Will there be transportation from hotel at arrival? So the answer is very simply this. If it is a custom flight that you book through Al-Musafir, if it is a flight that you book through Nusuk, whether it's a group flight or a Al-Musafir flight, then the responsibility for providing you transportation to the hotel or to the hotel at arrival is that with the service provider, and they will provide you the transportation at no charge. If you have ignored completely what's in Nusuk and bought something on your own, then you need to notify the service provider. You need to tell us and give us your contact for each one of those group. Al-Burj group, you have people that you're dealing with. In Dar es Salaam, you have Almuaisim group. Send them the flight information so it can be entered and the service provider is informed of it. And then this information, once it's collected, work with the service provider to know what the options are. And the options could be that you take a bus, because there'll be a bus arranged, or it could be you have to take a taxi. So generally, the options are something that you have to arrange or choose from, and it might be at a nominal charge because it's a custom flight. It might be at a nominal charge. Or if you've been there before, you're familiar, you might just say, you know what, I'm just going to go and make my own arrangement after I land in the hotel, because if it is upon arrival from the airport to the hotel is half an hour, it might cost you 200 riyals in a taxi. Everybody knows where Anwar al-Madinah move and pick is. So that's another option that you make your own, as opposed to transportation being provided upon your arrival there. So their collection of the information for the service provider is, if the service provider sees people are coming in that general time frame, He may or may not arrange for a bus. If not, then it'll be at your own. That's your choice. So wait and stay tuned. It's not that difficult to get a taxi from the airport to the hotel. It's just that they might charge you a bit extra than it normally is. And the same is true when you're done in Mecca to take a taxi. But we will know more as time goes on. But if it's a custom flight not in Nusuk, then expect that the arrangement will be at some nominal charge. Second question. Are we doing Hajj Tamattu and exiting state of Ihram on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah and then re-entering on the same day? Or should we only be in one Ihram throughout for Umrah and Hajj? I think this is more of a fiqh question, but I've seen quite a bit of boats. Some people insist on doing Hajj Tamattu, and if you insist on doing Hajj Tamattu, there is nothing wrong with doing your Ihram in Medina for Umrah, performing your Umrah, coming out of Ihram, only to put the Ihram on again in a few hours. Okay? So you can do that. You can do Hajj Tamattu even though you're out in Ihram for a few days. The original purpose of Hajj Tamattu was that those who came in with the Prophet ﷺ on the 4th of Dhul Hijjah and performed Hajj, the Prophet ﷺ instructed them that if you do not have sacrificial animals that you brought with you, then come out of Ihram. But if you do have sacrificial animals, then you stay in Ihram. So that they don't have the burden of being in Ihram for the next 4 days before they go on to the manasik of Hajj. But if you want to exit the Ihram on the 8th of Zulhijjah and re-enter in the same day, there is nothing wrong with it religiously to do so. If you want to say, no, wait a minute, let me just remain in Ihram. So after Umrah, I'm not going to cut my hair. I'm going to remain in Ihram. That's Hajj Qiran. And I'm going to go in the same Ihram to Mina and to Arafat and to Muzdalifah and then come out of Ihram. That Hajj Qiran, you can do that as well because you're coming in so close to the beginning of the manasik of Hajj. And again, you can have further advice. You have both options from your Sheikh, inshallah. Will Dar es Salaam or Sira provide drawstring bags? We've worked with Sira Mawasim and I've seen samples of it, and they intend to provide drawstring bags, inshallah. There was mention of an option to go directly to Arafat from the hotel instead of first going to Mina. Can you please provide some information about that? I believe that option was given to those who are in Majr al-Kabsh camp. That option was not given to those who are in Almuaisim camp. So again, if you attended the other webinar where this was offered, it was only offered to those who are in Majr al-Kabsh camp. It was not offered to those, because remember, not only your camp is different in Mina, Majr al-Kabsh and Muaisim, their camp is different in Arafat, the separate camp altogether in Arafat, for those who are in Camp A versus those who are in Camp C. So it was not offered to those who are in Camp C. Brother Muhammad Hussein, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum. How do we know our sacrifice is completed? You don't. The Hajj provider, service provider, will have taken the responsibility to actually complete your sacrifice, and there is a hadith that you can even ask the scholars in your fiqh session, in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked by several companions that they have performed the rituals in different sequences. I threw the stone, then I made tawaf al-ifada, or I actually threw the stones and I made tawaf al-ifada, then I did the sacrifice. In the various sequences that was presented to the Prophet ﷺ, he said to every one of them, La haraj, it does not matter. And you'll find shuyukhs like Dr. Yasir Qadi and others who will say it doesn't matter as long as you have done two of the three things. And that would be that if you've come in and you have thrown the stones and you've cut your hair, then you're done. Your ihram is over. But if you insist that I must know the time, and the service provider is not going to provide the time, and if you insist that it must be in the sequence that I come in and I throw the stones, then I actually do the sacrifice, then I cut the hair, then we cannot tell you when the time for the sacrifice is going to be. You can assume it will be late in the day, because the sacrifice is done in a special slaughterhouse. It starts on the sunrise of the day of Eid, and it continues for 3 days. Obviously, they do most of the sacrifice on the first and second day, but again, no specific time would be given. And if you want to insist on that, then I would suggest to you to find a way of offering your own sacrifice, which way you will know when it is done. Otherwise, you have to listen to what the scholars are saying and assume that the sacrifice will be done on your behalf, and that is sufficient for you. You should ask that question in the fiqh session. Why do we need fragrance-free toothpaste when we're not restricted from eating mint-flavored foods? Sister Qudsiya, somebody gave you a bad advice that you need a fragrance-free toothpaste? You don't. You're not allowed to put fragrance on yourself to beautify yourself. We're all going to go in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as equal, not somebody who's wearing a beautiful perfume and somebody who's not. You are not supposed to beautify yourself with perfume. A woman is not supposed to put perfume on in the first place. For the men, not to beautify yourself with perfume. Nobody uses a toothpaste to beautify themselves because it smells nice. So there is no need for a fragrance-free toothpaste. You can use a normal toothpaste. Are we expected to perform the Tawaf al-Wada by ourselves, or will be there a guide with us? Brother Muhammad Hatim, I don't think there'll be a guide with you, because I don't think everybody's departing on the same time. So people will perform Tawaf al-Wada. That's what it means, Tawaf al-Wada, not Ifada. Tawaf al-Wada based on their flight departure time. For Tawaf al-Ifada, your guide will tell you when, your group leader will tell you when to leave, and you will then go with the group leader and perform your Tawaf al-Ifada with them. Now, what happens when you come from the camp in Mina to the Haram to perform Tawaf al-Ifada and go back? How does that work? Well, you don't have a hotel. Or you have a hotel. So you'll first go to the hotel and you perform Tawaf al-Ifada and you come back. Because you have a hotel, you can choose when to perform Tawaf al-Ifada. Tawaf al-Wada is based on flight departure. But Tawaf al-Ifada, if you come in on the day of Eid, you've been in Arafat all day. You didn't get a proper sleep in Muzdalifah. You're exhausted. You're tired. You walked a lot. You know, when you come in on that day and come out of Ihram, you're going to crash and sleep like a baby for a few hours. Then you'll be told to go back to Mina. You will not be able to do Tawaf al-Ifada on the 10th of Zulhijjah. I know there are people who say, well, that's what the Prophet ﷺ did. Brothers and sisters, I don't remember how many Hajj I performed, but I've never done Tawaf al-Ifada on the 10th of Zulhijjah. Okay? I do it on the 11th, and that's perfectly fine. I can do it on the 11th. I can do it on the 12th. So, when you come back the next day, inshallah, back to your hotel for Tawaf al-Ifada, or your group leader arranges a Tawaf al-Ifada trip, for example, the next day, on the 11th, when you come back after midnight, that's the time to go in and perform Tawaf al-Ifada. And back to your room, get some rested before you return to Mina. So I've answered your question both on Wada and Ifada. Hopefully one of them is the correct answer. Sister Anu Kareem, I've already asked on return to custom flight to Jeddah Airport from Dubai. Do we book transportation now by ourselves or to Medina? Make sure your representative in Dar es Salaam is aware of your flight. Provide the flight information to them. We're working with the service provider about the transportation. If it is through Al-Musafir, they will provide. If it is by yourself, then we're going to work with them and see what options they give us. Can you clarify where do we meet our guides? Will it be in Saudi upon arrival at the airport? So your guides will be assigned here. They will be part of your WhatsApp group that will be assigned here. So as soon as you receive the WhatsApp invitation, make sure you check your WhatsApp invitation. Make sure you sign up for the WhatsApp right away. And they will introduce themselves on the WhatsApp initially. And after that, you'll probably see them in Medina. Not sure they'll be at the airport. They will try, but you'll see them in Medina, inshallah. That's where the program begins. But your question is, I land in Jeddah and have a 2-hour and 25-minute layover from my flight to Medina. Is there enough time to claim my luggage, clear customs, and go to my departure gate? It's not difficult to get to for local flight departure as soon as I clear customs going to Medina. But the issue is how much time will it take in passport control? That is the unpredictable time. What we normally use as a rule of thumb is a minimum of 3 hours, not 2 hours and 25 minutes. That's what we've used during Umrah time, and I would use the same during Hajj time. So if there is a later flight available, that would be better. If there is a later train available, that would be better as well. If you're coming in on a flight that's landing in the new terminal in Jeddah, the train station is connected to it. You can walk right into the train station. If you're coming in at a time when there's a train available, if you want to take a domestic flight, then allow a minimum of 3 hours or more. Do you take your Mina backpack with you when you go to do Rami Jamarat and Tawaf, or do you leave the backpack in Mina tent when you go for Rami and Tawaf? So, Nadine, when you are going to go to anywhere, you don't need to take your backpack. You don't have your valuables in it, correct? You have your valuables safely stored in your hotel room. So what's in the backpack that is of value? So it should be marked, you should have some way of knowing it's your backpack. And people generally leave their entire carry-on luggage. Those who actually don't have the hotel, those who are in the shifting program, also in the same camp, when they go to Arafat and Muzdalifah, they leave their entire carry-on luggage in the camp as such. So it's safe to actually leave it in the camp when you leave for Rami and for Tawaf. If you're going to return back, yes. My package says 11-day, but program mentioned 10 days. Please explain. I have no idea how to explain that. I just go by the itinerary that is specified. I don't even know which of the package you're referring to. If you're saying what Nusuk was saying versus what the program is mentioning, 10 days, as I mentioned, you will see the arrival time is some are arriving on the 4th of Zulhijjah, some are arriving on the 5th of Zulhijjah. So for those arriving on the 4th of Zulhijjah, and depending on when you're departing, it could be 11-day package. The package starts on June the 10th. It starts on June the 10th. And if a service provider has given you a group flight that arrives on June the 9th, then the service provider will accommodate you on June the 9th. If you picked a flight arriving on the June 9th, the service provider may not accommodate you. Service provider will accommodate you if they give you a flight on the 9th. But if they give you on the 10th, it'll be on the 10th from 5 p.m. onwards. And the program ends on the 14th, on the 19th of June. And you can leave the 19th or the 20th. So depending on how many days based on arrival and departure it'll be. But the Suhail, you asked me 7 questions in 1 question. Okay, so it's very difficult, but I'll try and answer it. What is the ballpark range of time of departure by train from Medina to Mecca? It's the evening time. I just don't have the specific timing of it. It's the evening time from Medina to Mecca that you'll be leaving on the 7th of Zulhijjah. I don't know whether it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. It'll be somewhere around there. The trains don't run past midnight anyway. On Nusuk, I purchased Kaaba viewing room. Is praying from room versus person in Haram, or both have equal blessings? Well, if you are in a Kaaba viewing room, you can see the Kaaba. When it comes to praying in the room, you are not in Jama'ah. Again, this is a fiqh question. For you to get the blessings of praying in Jama'ah in the Haram, you must be in a Jama'ah. You cannot be praying with the sound coming from the Haram in your room. You're not part of the Jama'ah. You're not in a Saf anywhere. You can be in the Saf in the Haram, or you can be in Saf in the Musalla, right? In the Musalla of the hotel, where it's just praying with the Haram, and there is a Jama'ah there. By itself, you're not. Your prayer is accepted, but I don't think you're going to get the same amount of blessings associated with praying in the Jama'ah. Post Umrah after haircut, can I change Ihram cloth before departure to Mina? You certainly can. If you have a second set of Ihram clothing, you want to put that fresh one after you have done your Umrah and before you proceed to go for Hajj. The second time you're putting Umrah, you want to put on a fresh Umrah, you can. There's nothing wrong with it. You can take a shower because you're out of Ihram and you can put the fresh one. Let me give you a perspective that most people don't have. I don't, by the way. If I have done Umrah, I'll wear the same Ihram again. Because what makes the Ihram dirty? Your perspiration does not make it dirty. Even some people will say, because it has dust on it. Well, that does not make it dirty. Because when you have no water for wudu, what do you use to purify yourself? Dust. So there's nothing wrong with dust. As a matter of fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to see you in that state. The Prophet ﷺ left Medina for his Hajj along with 120,000 people, companions, because he had pre-announced his going for Hajj. And he assumed the state of Ihram by making ghusl on the 24th of Zulqa'dah. That is before the month of Zulhijjah. And he arrived 9 days later on the 4th of Zulhijjah in Mecca. For 9 days he was on foot, and he traveled, and he slept, and he ate, and he prayed, traveling from Medina to Mecca. You think that he changed his ihram? No. Your ihram is good even if it is dirty with the dirt. Or it's not good when it's soiled with something that is a najis, the bathroom, for example. So if you want to feel good to change it, you're okay to change it. But if you want to wear the same ihram that you wore because you had perspired in it, that is perfectly fine. It's up to you. But there's nothing wrong with changing it. What I see sometimes people do is they take a fresh set of ihram with them, and in Mina, and they will actually take a ghusl in the bathroom in Mina and change it there. But changing ihram into a new set of ihram for Hajj, separate from the one from Umrah, is perfectly fine. But I've given you an idea as to that it's not necessary, but if you want to do it, you can. How can I add more than one phone number to DST WhatsApp group? You please want to talk to your DST rep as to what that is, as to how to do that. WhatsApp group will have your own phone number. You want to have a second phone number, you have 2 SIMs in it, or you're going to change the phone number when you go to Saudi Arabia, then you can change it there. What's the travel time from Mina Almuaisim camp to Arafat camp by bus? And for understanding, only by walk. I wouldn't walk from the camp to Arafat. It's going to be very, very hot. You want to be alert in Arafat, and you haven't got a clue. How do you get to your camp in Arafat? So I wouldn't walk. So step that aside. You're going to walk from Mina to Arafat. You wouldn't know where your camp is in Arafat. 2.5 million people are there that has no markings at all. So don't do that. Number one. Number two, for Mina Almuaisim camp to Arafat, I think it's by the shuttle buses. Normally, it will take about half an hour or so to actually get there, but it all depends on the traffic when it gets to Arafat. Maybe an hour, depends on the traffic. Are solar, electric, half skateboard and half scooters allowed? Not in the haram. If you're thinking of using that in the haram, it will not be allowed in the haram. As to whether it's allowed by the airline, you have to speak to the airline. As I will have only one checked baggage, may I have 2 Zamzam bottles? No, because the General Aviation Authority of Saudi Arabia has said that the airline can only take 1 Zamzam, irrespective of the number of baggage. So it's not because you're allowed 2 pieces, you got 1 piece, you get 2 Zamzam. They will only accept 1 Zamzam from you, not 2. And don't put another one in your suitcase. Any updates on double room upgrades from Mawasim Elite 20? No updates yet, but it doesn't look good for them. It does not look good, because one of the things that has happened, even though we've tried, is that they actually extended the quota. So I think 3,500 people from the United States became 9,000 plus. Same thing happened in Canada and UK and Australia. And so their idea was, when we had the introductory meeting with them, was that once the sale closes, they'll consolidate it and they'll see. I have no idea whether they can offer this or not, but I believe we're looking at a final answer from them sometime early next week, and we will let you know. But I wouldn't hold any hope that you will be able to get it, and Allah knows best. I have a custom Saudi flight from Washington to Jeddah with 2 hours and 40 minutes connection, and then connecting with Saudi to Medina. Will the immigration be done in Jeddah or in Medina? The immigration will be done in Jeddah. Immigration is always in the port of entry. We're coming to Jeddah at 5:30 p.m. on the 10th of June in a custom flight, but our program starts in Medina. How do we transport the arrangement? Again, if you are coming in a flight through Nusuk, whether it is Al Musafir or the provided by the service provider, and if the service provider is giving you a flight in Jeddah, then the service provider will transfer you to Medina. If you're coming on your own to Jeddah, just provide the flight details to your Dar es Salaam rep, and we're working with the service provider to see what options are available. But the chances are you'll actually have your own transportation from Jeddah to Medina, whether you take a connecting flight 3 or 4 hours later, or you take a connecting train to Medina, and at Medina station take a taxi to the hotel. So that option is always available to you. We have not heard from service provider what they're going to do, but they're going to provide with options. Most of them you probably have to pay nominally for them if it's a complete custom flight. I've already answered that question. When do we find out if we can leave from Mina to Makkah hotel? Or you can leave from Mina to Makkah hotel, but we just don't know the timing of it. That is decided by the Ministry of Hajj, and you'd probably know, let's say when you arrive in Muzdalifah, from Muzdalifah to your camp in Mina, then they will tell you, by the way, we have arranged for a bus for those who are here to go to the hotel. You will know it at that time. We will not know it here before we depart. Because I don't think the Ministry of Hajj has figured out what the shuttling service is going to be. They're too far busy with other things. They're not there yet. How can we go from Jeddah to Medina? What about the adhiya? I think I've already answered that. Both of them. My Hajj package is still June 21st. So I booked a custom flight to leave Jeddah on June 21st. Well, sir, if your Hajj package is till June the 21st, then your hotel room is till June the 21st, right? If you're saying that your Hajj package is till then your hotel room will be till June 21st. There is no reason why you cannot stay beyond that if you're going to stay, if it is till that long. As to whether or not the service provider keeps you in the hotel till the 21st, or tells you to leave the hotel on the 20th and you stay one night in Jeddah, that is something that the service provider will do. If you actually booked a custom flight to leave Jeddah on the 21st on your own, what I have right now is the itinerary showing it all ends on the 20th. If it ends on the 20th and your flight's on the 21st, I would think that you will probably have to stay overnight on your own for one night, probably somewhere in Jeddah. Again, I'm getting the same question. Let me say it for once. I have a return flight at this date and this time, and it's from Medina, but I'm ending in Jeddah. If you're arriving in one city, okay, let me actually put that up. I've covered this in the very beginning. Okay, let me just put it up again so that everybody sees it again. Okay, arrival in a different city. I covered this in the very beginning. For group flights, it'll be provided by the service provider, whether it's train or bus or whatever it is. For a custom flight, guidelines for purchasing transfer options, you'll have to pay for it, will be provided through the service provider once he has all the details. We're gathering everyone who has a custom flight to let us know what that custom flight is to your representative, so we can pass it on to the service provider, and he can come back and say, I have arranged for a bus, it'll cost you X. So we're going to do that. Or you can say, you know what, I'm not going to wait for the service provider to give me an option that I have to purchase anyway. I'm going to make my own domestic booking. So if it's a custom flight, if you're responsible for the transfer, either you wait for the options provided by the service provider, or you make your own booking. I hope that's clear. So regardless of whether your question is, I arrive on this date, this time in Medina, in Jeddah, I'm departing from Medina, and my program ends in Jeddah, how will I get transferred? Same thing for arrival. If it's a custom flight, they're not providing service free of charge. They will provide you with options that you have to purchase if it's a custom flight. Okay, but they need to know what your flights are. And that's what we're asking you to do, is to provide that information to our representatives so we can pass it on to them. Okay, I'm not going to answer any more of those questions. Can we buy electric scooter and travel with it? It all depends on the battery in the electric scooter and the airline requirements as to whether they will allow you to travel with the electric scooter. I think you ought to consider speaking with the airline based on the ticket you have, and they will probably want to know the specifics of the electric scooter, and it can be transported. And if so, if it's at no charge, what about the lithium battery? Will it be, you have to remove the battery, it'll be completely out of charge? I know that some people have gone through it a few years ago. I don't have the specifics. It has nothing to do with the service provider or Dar Islam. It is between you and the airline as to what is allowed or not allowed for you to travel with. When will schedule for city tours be provided? But the Khurram, you want to know when we're going to do the tour of Medina. I can tell you it will be in the morning after Fajr and not after breakfast because it'll be too hot. It'll be in one of those days that you are going to be in Medina. And that's all I can tell you at this time. The detailed itinerary is in the works, and inshallah you will see that in a few days. Options for Udhiya. Any items that is provided by Service so not to overpack. Are we doing Hajj Qiran due to timeline? Let me ask the last one. You can do Hajj Qiran if you wish to do so. It's up to you. Options for Udhiya. If it's already collected by the service provider at the time that you bought the package, then the service provider is handling it. If it is not collected by the service provider, then Dar Islam would have sent you a form to fill out, and you can say, yes, I want it done, arranged by Dar Islam. Then Dar Islam will take that information and arrange for your Udhiya through the service provider. And the third option would be that you make your own arrangements over there. Any items that is provided by service provider so as to not overpack, we're getting them slowly now. We've got some from Al Burj as to what will be given here before you depart will be given over there, but it's not complete. We will share that with you when we have that information. Please confirm that a passport will be returned after Saudi immigration check after initial arrival in the kingdom. Previously, it was told the passport will be kept until time of departure of Saudi Arabia. My understanding is, and this is not cast in concrete, is that they will keep your passport as you exit the airport. They might not give it to you at the airport. So you'll go to passport control, they will stamp it, give it back to you. It's with you. As you're leaving the airport, they might take it away from you. And they might return it to you while you're still in Medina. They might return it to you while you're still in Medina, and then you keep it. Okay, that's what I was told. For those who were in the meeting, when we introduced the director from Al Burj, he said, no, you keep the passport. As to when you keep the passport, that's the question. Do we do it right at the airport? Or do they keep it and do some paperwork and administrative follow-up they have to do and then return it while we're still in Medina? That needs to be decided by them. Udhiya was paid for in Nusuk. How is it taken care of? Well, if you paid in Nusuk, then they will sacrifice on your behalf. What is unknown is the timing of the sacrifice. That they will not tell you. Will ihram clothing be provided? Yes. If you're starting in Medina, you will receive your ihram clothing, prayer mat, Quran, all the things that you saw in Nusuk, they will all come out in Medina, inshallah. Will there be a fiqh of Hajj for sisters, especially regarding menses? I believe there was a session planned for sisters. I just don't remember what time and date it was, but there is definitely a session planned for women only to go through these questions, inshallah. I think it is in May. You may want to send a email to your contact in Dar es Salaam and ask for that specific date and time, and we will schedule it and publish it as well. Are families where there are only two women going to be placed in the same room and can travel together? If you are in a double occupancy, Nusrat, with the other person, and you've expected and you've said that they're both in the double occupancy, in the same profile in Nusuk when you book the package. So in my profile, I have two people, and I booked the package with these two people in double occupancy, then those two people should be in the same room, and they can travel together. Brothers and sisters, that's the end of all the questions, and it's been almost 2 hours. I hope this was useful to you. and beneficial to you in preparing for this journey. But remember, the best preparations you have is to make sure that your heart is prepared to undertake this journey. The result or the award of this is to come back sinless or to be inscribed as the inhabitants of Jannah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us an ease in our journey with safety and security and accept our Hajj and our supplications. Inshallah, I will be there and I look forward to meeting you, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته